That's why there is a great saying that war is too serious a business for generals. In my opinion, the reason is they miss the bigger picture. In their little sort of tactical gains that he should be killed and that should be killed, they forget that there's a much bigger picture. The drones are causing hatred amongst Americans. Hatred feeds into militants, who then become heroes of fighting a war against this American Goliath. Here are the small David fighting the American Goliath, and Pakistan army is helping the American Goliath by taking dollars. This is the narrative of the militants. Now, if I was the prime minister, the thing I would hit is the narrative. The moment you win this battle of ideas, you win the war. You're not going to win this war by shooting him down and shooting him down. So this is the problem. They are missing out on the bigger picture. Why aren't they winning the war? Why isn't America winning the war in Afghanistan? Because they miss the bigger picture. It's a battle for hearts and minds in the end. Win the people over to your side, you win the war. Why can't we win the Pakistani people in the tribal areas to our side? Because the narrative prevails of the militants that this is a jihad against America and Pakistan army is a collaborator. Hence, you blow yourself up against the Pakistan army, and that's what's causing the maximum damage. Suicide attacks. It's what there is no defense against that. Unless you get rid of that motivation, you can't win the war. What drones are doing is they're putting Pakistan army and the Americans together. At the moment, we have lumped all of them together. So they are now, because they have links with my enemy's enemy is my friend. So because they've been banned outfits, they all then go there. The Pakistan army is going after them. So common enemy becomes Pakistan army, which is linked with Americans. So the a war against Islam, everyone's sort of together. So the moment you detach, then you will deal with the different groups separately. Some you will negotiate, some there will be peace and truth and reconciliation, and some, I'm afraid, will have to be taken on. Sharia basically is it means the road of the Prophet. What was the road of the Prophet? He set up the first state in Medina, which became the first welfare state in the history of mankind. The state took it. That's why I say the Scandinavian model is very close to Islam. First time, now this is pensions were introduced, the old were taken care by the state. I'm talking about history. First time, widows got stipends from the state. Orphans were looked after by the state. Poor people were given zakat if they couldn't, if they were poor. State took responsibility. It was the first welfare state in the history of mankind. And secondly, the rule of law. Everyone was equal before law. So it was a just system. That's what we understand by Sharia. That's what is happening in Scandinavia. We have something in Islam called ijtihad, debate. That's why Iqbal is my great role model. That's why it's very important for the West to understand Iqbal. Because Iqbal was the great scholar who began to expound these thoughts. To fight conservatism, fundamentalism, obscurism, you don't need guns, you need an Iqbal. You fight with them intellectually, not through guns.
Okay.
It's not a question of convincing them. It's a battle for hearts and minds of the people of the country. So when the people, and that's what Iqbal did in 30s, 20s, he won the Muslim youth over to his side. And guess who his biggest critics were? Were the fundamentalists. But what happened to the people? Because of great intellect, he won the people over masses to his side. He is today regarded as the greatest Islamic scholar in Pakistan and in Iran. So it's the intellect. That's how you deal with it. Now, what Iqbal's idea was that you should have democracy. And in a democracy, let a parliament debate the laws. And you move, and the ijtihad is you move ahead with times. Do you understand? So the eternal principles remain the same. You want justice, you want equality before law, which is what in Europe and in Scandinavian the systems are based on. but you want to keep moving ahead with time, so that the debating place, where is it? The parliament, which should keep reviewing laws. So this idea that you're chopping hands is what Shariat is, they don't understand the spirit of Shariat. It's being a human being. That's what I understand by Shariat. We will make sure that the rich pay taxes. At the moment, there are too many loopholes for the rich to avoid taxes. For instance, if I wanted to hide, I have my grandfather's land. If I wanted to hide my income, which I made from some source and wanted to hide from taxes, I would show it as an agricultural income. And so I don't pay taxes on it. So you finish. Everyone has to pay taxes. No sacred cows. By the way, I've never asked any donor who has given money for the hospital to ever give money to PTI. I have never in my life ever done that, because I think it's unethical. But what happens surprisingly is that in the last 3 years, it's happened, donors who used to give money for my cancer hospital, which is one of the biggest charities, or for Namal, also wanted to give money to PTI. So this change happened in three and a half years ago. 3 years I started detecting this change, which is why, by the way, I kept saying that this big change is coming and we'll win the election, because I spotted the change. They were very clear before that, look, politics is different. We only want to give to charity, because charity, remember, giving to charity is a religious duty. I give every year a part of my total money I have, percentage I give to the poor. This is a religious, it's called zakat. Because people think it's a religious thing, people have to give it, and the more credible the charity, they give it to that. But politics is not, it's not a charity. And suddenly I realized, the same people wanted to give to PTI, which is why I noticed that this big change has come. Because people now think that the country's future is at stake, and they feel that PTI is the only party. That's why we keep getting donations. In the subcontinent, politics is personality driven. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, no one knew anyone else. Gandhi, Jinnah, Nehru, dynasty. Here, Nawaz Sharif means PMLN, and Zardari means, at the moment, People's Party. But the difference between them and us is that here is the first party that is holding elections. The reason why these parties don't elections is because they want to keep the parties under control. Elected party you cannot control. Here is a party that risked everything in the election year, taking 9 months to hold the first ever intra-party election in Pakistan's history. So that's the difference. This will become an institution. This will then bring in leadership from bottom ups. At the moment, it's top down. I consider myself the most liberal politician in Pakistan. The most liberal. Liberal as opposed to, the West toxified class thinks being westernized is liberal. Me thinks that a liberal means I am a Muslim liberal who understands his religion, his culture, and who's a liberal. I consider myself a liberal. I'm closer to the Western liberal than to the Western conservative, okay? But I do believe that my liberalism comes from my two role models. One is Iqbal, the intellectual role model, and the other is Jinnah, who is my political role model. These were the two role models, and I think they're the role models for majority of Pakistanis. So that's whom I consider liberals. So I'm a liberal in that sense. But here liberalism is confused with westernization. So if you appear Western, I wear jeans, stuff, and like that, I'm supposed to be liberal in here. And yet I might back the bombing of villages where there are women and children. Some of our liberals backed blowing up this Lal Masjid. But there were children there, there are orphans there. And I kept speaking against it. I said, don't do it. I mean, do anything but don't kill them. Do you know, you look at the graph of terrorism, it went up like that after Lal Masjid. It was one of the biggest blood, and guess who was backing them? Who was praying for blood? I mean, have you ever heard of liberals wanting bloodshed? remember, 60% of prisoners in Pakistani jails, their only fault is they're poor. 60% they're not, they have been, these prisoners have been, are there because of abuse of law. 60%. And this is the DI, the Deputy Inspector General of Jails, made a statement in a seminar here that 60% are there only because of misuse of law. So you're talking about at least 80,000 people in jails because of misuse of laws. So first thing is to correct, do not make perjury a sin. I make perjury a crime. Perjury must be crime as it is in the West, because then you can't frame people like that. At the moment we have, as I said to you, 80% of the population is beyond law. So the 20% on upper scale of 10%, no woman has ever been in Hudud law there. It's the bottom people. My life is guided by my faith. And my faith is what has liberated me. I think what she means is the total liberated. I am a totally liberated human being. I have no fears. Liberation means you're liberated from your fears. I fear nothing. You see, Sufism was always concentrating on the inner freedom of a human being. A true faith, and this is what I discovered with Mia Bashir, true faith is what liberates you internally. You control the self. You're in control. You do not get dictated by the self. You become selfless. Your life becomes, your goals become much bigger, beyond the self. So you think of other human, and all faiths basically want to make us into a human being as opposed to an intelligent animal. And that's what Sufism does. Sufism was the battle for the inside. Unfortunately, the orthodoxy always concentrated on the outside, the rituals. They were concentrating on, but the rituals were to liberate the inside. I mean, I was quite surprised. I read Al-Wahhab, from where the Wahhabi background. I read some of his. He didn't say the things they've done in his name. I mean, you cannot kill in the name of religion. You can't kill people because they believe in a different way to your way of religion. It's just un-Islamic.